when I'm upset at my man, you know, when he used to go in the office, right? When he came home, just like, oh, you're so fine. I'm just so glad you're home.
I had a strategy,
man. But yeah, but now we see each other all day. I'm like, are you still fine? Like, you know, especially with that COVID weight gain.
Wow. Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. You still fine.
But yeah, I appreciate it. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to our RLF Power Couple channel. My name is Ola.
And I'm Shamie. And we're on a journey to win in our relationship, lifestyle, and in our finances. And we want you guys to come along so that you can do the same.
Absolutely. All right, so we do have an interesting one for you today, and it's relating to relationship.
How to survive in this lockdown period.
Yep.
I know things are opening it up a little bit more, but we just don't know where things are gonna go, right?
Yep. Unprecedented times. That's what people always say. I heard it too much so far. But I mean, it's real. Like, this is a situation we're all living in and all that stuff. But again, in the relationship, you have to really factor out the impact, right?
Right.
Yeah, and this is important for us to talk about.
Right, and studies are showing that divorce rates are going up. I think the biggest thing that they found in China, because they were the first ones that went on lockdown, was how high divorce rates were due to the lockdown. So we just feel like this is important for anybody that might be struggling or wants to do some research and know what to do before anything bad happens.
Mm-hmm. I mean, before this, divorce rates were still climbing.
Yeah,
right?
They were
naturally, and now it's got more triggers.
Right, it's grown exponentially. Yeah. So I think it's important for us to just share some of the things that we use and some of the things that we found out while researching to make this video. Okay,
so let's jump right in. Right, first point: do not act like nothing has changed. You know.
That is so important. It sounds dumb. It does sound, it's like, okay, we know things have changed, but people forget that things have changed and they act like they used to.
Yeah.
For us, for example, we're both working from home.
Correct.
That's a lot different than anything we've experienced. Some couples, some people have lost jobs. They're not used to that.
Due to all these changes, right, you have to acknowledge that we need to provide more care and, of course, have more understanding with each other, right? This is important. Another thing too is that, you know, a lot of people have had loss around them, right? Whether it's their friends, family, you know, co-workers, and it's just delicate times, right? So you have to really understand that is changing people's minds and feelings.
Right, and so once you acknowledge that it's not status quo, that's the first step in just really understanding each other more to be able to survive during this lockdown.
Emotional distress and all of that.
Yeah, so I think that leads right to our next point is accept your emotions. Like, we as humans, we feel bad about feeling bad. You know, everybody wants to be the strong one. Like
putting up a front, as
right. But you have to allow yourself to be human. Because until you acknowledge it, your spouse might not be able to acknowledge it. So I remember, I'm sure my husband thinks I was a little bit crazy, but at the beginning of the everything, lockdown, everybody's out of toilet paper, couldn't buy me so many things, right? You know, everybody's buying up the whole store. I start to freak out. I'm like, people are gonna start buying guns, and then people are gonna start looting. This seems like something out of a movie. What were your thoughts when I was doing all that?
I mean, I didn't think she was too far off, but honestly, it was kind of extreme though, right? Like, hold on, let's figure out what this thing is about before we start fearing that people are gonna bring guns and this is a purge. You know?
Like I was like, oh my God, we're in a movie. Like, this is my worst nightmare coming to life. And I was in a, you know, very unstable mental place because I was actually very scared. And I was able to communicate that with him as opposed to feel bad about thinking like that and not communicate it. And I would just be like upset all the time. And he wouldn't know why. And then we would just fight more and it would just affect our relationship.
Yeah, I mean, we got to a point where we started discussing it further, even to the point where we agreed on, okay, maybe we should go get cash out of the ATM.
Right.
Just in case, there's that shortage or whatnot. But again, it was part of the discussions that led us into what actions can we take to minimize that concern.
And the thing is, he actually comforted me. He's like, that's not going to happen. Because I was like, and there's no police on the road anymore, because that was a big thing.
Oh, yeah. They did say
like,
no police around.
Yeah, don't call 911 unless it's a true emergency. So, I was freaking out. But, he comforted me. He's like,
I got the guns.
Baseball bat. But anyway, so that's a big one. If you acknowledge your emotions, you can discuss that with your partner, and that will help them understand you more and avoid a lot of conflict, which brings us to our next point, managing conflict.
Right, so managing conflict is obviously one that you have to figure it out along the way, right? And so many a times we go to work and we don't really have to deal with our partner day in and day out all day long, right? But now when most people have to come in and stay at home together, they're figuring out, okay, how do I, you hurt me last night, I'm stressed out.
Let me just interrupt you for a second. Yeah, when I'm upset at my man. When he used to go in the office, right? When he came home, just like, oh, you're so fine. I'm just so glad you're home.
I had a strategy, man.
But now we see each other all day. I'm like, are you still fine? Especially with that COVID weight gain.
Wow. Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. You still fine.
But I appreciate that. But no, I think at the end of the day, right, you can escape when you go to work, and you escape when you go do your own thing. But now when you're together, you just have to figure it out, right, all day long. But then again, what do you do to manage the conflict, right? Some things you have to do is obviously give yourself a break. Even though you're in the same house, you got to figure out how to give yourself personal time.
Right.
Especially if you have kids and all of that too, you have to have a schedule, right? Something that works for you both, that allows that one person to cool off, to have that time alone, and then reinvigorate himself to come back in.
Right. It's as simple as okay, you get time to stay in your room. I'll watch the kids. It's really not that big of a deal, but just for me, having the chance to just lay in bed all day one day. I mean, some people will not give you all day, but usually when he gives me all day, it ends up being 4 hours because the kids find me. But the point is just having that little time to yourself to get away. You're still at home, but you're away in your own little world.
And what's funny is that even those that don't have kids or any other person to care about, and it's just both of you, at the end of the day, it might just even be as simple as you can go watch your own show, or you can be on your social media for a little while. I'm not going to disturb you or whatnot. So that gives them their own personal time.
So then our next point is managing personality differences.
You can tell we're very different, right? Yeah.
We're different?
Surprise.
No. Personalities don't change that much. I mean, it's just a fact. A lot of people get married and think person don't change. Let me just break it down to you right now. They ain't gonna change.
Nothing new under the sun.
Exactly. Whatever issues you had before you got married is still gonna be there until the wheels fall off.
Unless God intervenes, right?
What God cannot do does not exist. But anyways, these personality differences, the things you didn't like about your husband to begin with, or your wife, will be there and more apparent again because you are like this all day. At some point we share the same office, and when I tell you, I was just like, why is my man talking like that?
Oh man,
it just gets annoying.
She be staring me down in meetings. I'm like, can I just talk? Put my little accent and all that in there. Oh my god.
And if you or sometimes you like, why are you shaking your head? I'm like, I am. So unconsciously, I'm just like, what the heck are you doing?
I guess for her, she's just like, I didn't know you talked this much. My goodness, just man, let me be.
Right. So anyway, these personality differences, they're going to be more apparent and more annoying. And the only way you can really get through them is really focusing on the good.
Let me elaborate on that, right? So if you think about it, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And if you spend time dwelling on their weaknesses all day long, you're just going to get frustrated, right? So what you need to do is actually focus on the strengths. Some of her personality that I enjoyed and focused on was her checking in on me and providing me lunch and things like that when I would be so focused on work too much, right? So I had somebody that would say, look, you need to take away some time off of work and eat and relax. So that really helped, and I appreciate her for that. Thanks, sweetheart.
All right, yeah. So last but not least, this is one of the big ones and one of the major reasons why we started our channel is financial stressors in marriage and relationships. They're the biggest reasons for divorce. And so during this pandemic, it's getting a lot worse. Because like we mentioned, people are losing their jobs left and right, just unprecedented times. I don't know where you live, but where we live, cost of living has skyrocketed. Groceries are more expensive. Like for the past 4 or 5 months, we've gone over our grocery budget. I thought we were doing something wrong because I'm like, are we eating more? Like, what are we doing? And it's just because prices have gone up. So there's a couple things that we've done. We've actually done some of this stuff before the pandemic, but we know that during this lockdown will definitely be beneficial. One of the things is put in a buffer in your budget. So let's say everything is status quo in terms of your pay, you're still making the same income, but because of the cost of living going up, things might change in how much you spend. So how do you manage through that? You create a buffer in your budget. You have to agree upon, okay, this is the amount that's okay to go over our budget by. That way you're not feeling frustrated that you're not meeting your financial goals.
Another one is that we actually have scenario plans for our budget depending on how things play out. So for example, in the case where somebody loses their job and you only have one person making an income, then you have to adjust the budget to know how to manage along the way. Right.
So we've calculated our income, like only I was working. What does that mean for us leaving? What do we have to cut back on?
Expenses.
And vice versa. And so we know like it's gonna be tighter, but it's doable because we've already planned. Like they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So just having that, just in case anything happens, because nothing's really guaranteed, makes it a little easier to manage through whatever may come.
Right. And the worst situation obviously is out there today, especially in this climate, if both husband and wife or the couple actually both lose their job, right? And you would be wondering, okay, how do we manage our budget? Well, this is the best time to have those discussions and not when the stress is high and you're trying to rush through the challenges, right? If you can discuss that proactively and have a plan in place for both not having a job, would help you out. So okay, do we need to plan with living with somebody, or do we need to really cut down on our expenses significantly, and how does that look like?
Right. And a lot of people say you should save 3 to 6 months expenses depending on where you are. I feel like during the pandemic 6 months is probably more accurate and a little bit safer, just because like we said, it's really unprecedented times and we just don't know how things are going to play out.
Right. So these are all difficult conversations, difficult things to do. It's not easy, but again, it's important and it's something that you should try to do proactively. Start looking into them and working on them. And to be honest, we're not trying to say this is some apocalypse happening. We're in this right now. We're in the pandemic and lockdown,
and we're working through it, and everything that we gave you, all the tips and things that we gave you, we're working through those daily. Like I still get annoyed by him consistently at least once a day, and so it's gonna be something that you have to keep working on. Marriage is work, but these things will just make it a little bit easier if you work on it, like he said, proactively.
Well, the hope is that things will eventually subside relating to the pandemic and lockdown, right? But as of right now, we want to make sure that people are thinking this through and actually getting enough ahead of themselves to make sure that they don't fall into a position of, having to divorce.
All right, so in summary, keep working at your relationship. Use these as just steps and tips to help you. And as always, we hope that this helps you win in your relationship,
lifestyle,
and in your finances. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, go ahead and subscribe. We love to have you join our family. We just really enjoyed all the support we've gotten from everybody. And if you have a comment, go ahead and tell us what you thought about this video, or other things that you've done to help build your marriage during this lockdown period. And lastly, share if you figure that this will help somebody, because if it could help us, it could help you, it could help somebody that you know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching this video, and wish you all the best in your relationship.
All right, thanks y'all. Bye-bye.